Hey guys, today I'll show you a horror film called The Devil All the Time. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. Willard and his son pray at their makeshift crucifix. The film flashes back during World War II, while Willard Russell is serving in the Solomon Islands. He and other soldiers find their colleagues skinned and crucified by Japanese soldiers. We could see the pain in the eyes of the crucified man, an experience that you would not wish even on your worst enemy. Willard ends the crucified man's agony with a bullet through his head. After the war, on his way home to Coal Creek, West Virginia, Willard passes through Meade, Ohio. He stops by a diner and orders himself a nice meal. Willard meets Charlotte, a waitress at a diner. Willard instantly falls in love when he sees Charlotte's gesture to a homeless man asking for a meal. He also meets a photographer named Carl Henderson. On Willard's way home, he rides with his uncle Erskine, and he shows him a gun that he says Hitler used to kill himself. When Willard goes home, he immediately tells his mother about Charlotte. His mother says that he wants him to meet a woman from church. One day, Willard visits the church with his mother, and the preacher that time is Roy. Roy is a bizarre evangelical preacher. The preacher pours a jar of spiders over his head while giving sermons to demonstrate his faith in God. The people in the church are in shock with Roy's gesture, but it makes them believe more in the words that he is saying. Eventually, Willard and Charlotte marry and move to Ohio, where they have a son whom they name Arvin. The couple is saving up money to purchase a house. Willard gathers up planks and he makes his crucifix for his prayer ritual. Willard writes a letter to his parents telling them that he is now praying again. One day, Willard sees his son with a black eye, and he tells his son he should fight back against the bullies. Willard and his son go out to pray at their spot. He tells his son that he should pray as he meant it. Two men pass by while Willard and his son are praying, and the men begin talking naughty things that they will do to Willard's wife. Willard finds the two men and beats them up. Willard goes back to his son and tells him that is how to fight back. It is a really messed up thing to say to a growing child. Eventually, the doctors diagnose Charlotte with cancer. Willard believes he can influence God with a hardcore prayer to remove cancer from his wife's body. One night, Willard is drinking his pain away, and the bartender lady offers her prostitutes. He believes that God is asking him to make a sacrifice for his wife, so he prays to God and then sacrifices Arvin's dog, kneeling before a rustic cross that was erected by him previously behind the house. Arvin is angry at his father for killing his dog, and he asks his father to bring his dog back. Nevertheless, Charlotte dies despite Willard's efforts. Willard commits suicide by slitting his throat. Arvin sees his father and immediately reports to the sheriff with pies smeared all over his face. The sheriff thought it was blood. Years earlier, Helen Hatton married Roy Lafferty. Helen and Roy later have a daughter named Lenora. During a sermon, Roy's face is bitten by a spider and his head swells up. Roy locks himself in his room, and through this isolation, he prays to God. When his allergies settle down, he walks out from his isolation. The following day, Roy and Helen visit Willard's parents, and Helen reads Willard's letter. She then leaves Lenora with the old couple before driving off to the woods. While Roy and Helen are praying in the woods, Roy surprisingly stabs his wife in the neck with a screwdriver, and blood spews out from her neck. Roy tries resurrecting his wife with prayers, but fails horribly. Roy drives away with his brother, and he tells his brother that he is planning to tell the incident to the police. His brother tells him that he sounds like a crazy man, and the police would not believe his smelly bullshit. Eventually, Roy leaves his disabled brother in the car and he hitchhikes. Carl Henderson and his wife Sandy pick up Roy from the streets. Carl parks the car in the woods, and he forces Roy to take off his clothes and touch Sandy. Roy refuses to have a nasty hormone game with Sandy. Roy, with a gun on his face, contemplates the afterlife that he has been talking about in the church. Roy says his daughter's name for the last time, and Carl shoots him in the head. In 1957, Arvin goes to live with his grandmother. There he meets Lenora, who becomes his adopted stepsister. He grows up to be fiercely protective of Lenora. One day, local boys bully Lenora, and Arvin stands up for her. Afterward, Arvin goes with Lenora to visit her mother's grave. Lenora wipes off blood from Arvin's nose, and they talk about their parents. Arvin tells Lenora that his father might still be alive. Lenora says that she has already forgiven his father. Lenora tells Arvin to forgive his father for his sins. Lenora grew up to be God-fearing, and she is not certain that her father killed his mother, making it easier for her to forgive her father. On the other hand, I believe Arvin would never forgive his father because the trauma that his father gave him is tattooed in his head. He might have nightmares of the incident even when he is now grown up. One day, a new pastor arrives in their town. The people are told to bring meals to the church to welcome the pastor. Arvin's grandmother brings chicken liver to the church because it is all that they can afford. The pastor tastes the chicken liver, and he begins a sermon about poor people. The pastor continues shaming the old woman for bringing chicken livers. The pastor says that he is making a sacrifice by eating all of the chicken livers. The old woman goes home crying, and Arvin comforts her. It is very obvious that the pastor appreciates the meal, and what he did to thank the woman is the opposite of kind. Eventually, Lenora grows close to the new pastor. She walks by the pastor's house because it is raining. At the same time, Arvin waits for Lenora's bullies, and he beats them up one by one. This scene greatly reflects the effects of his father's attitude when he was younger. The pastor takes Lenora to the woods where he says to be his prayer spot. Minutes later, the pastor seduces Lenora to take off her clothes and begins tongue massaging her. Lenora believes that she can feel the Lord's presence when the pastor is touching her. On the other side of the story, Carl and Sandy are preparing for their trips. Sandy's brother is a sheriff, and he is starting to hear about the scheme his sister is doing. The sheriff is planning to run for a position, but his sister's scandal may affect his reputation. The sheriff is doing a lot of sketchy things on the side that the people may discover because of his sister. Later on, Carl and Sandy continue with their usual skit. They pick up another victim and bring him to their spot beside the dam. Sandy offers the victim alcohol, and Carl insists on taking pictures. The victim agrees, and Carl stages the photographs. Eventually, Carl harms the victim and continues to take pictures. On the couple's drive to another spot, Sandy reveals that she does not like what they are doing. Carl offers Sandy a nice meal at a motel, and she agrees. When they get to the motel, Sandy reports his husband to the authorities. Going back to Lenora's story, Lenora tells the pastor that she is pregnant with his child. As expected, the pastor denies her accusation. The pastor suggests to Lenora to find a way to terminate her pregnancy because she will bring disgrace to her family. Not having any desire to carry disgrace to her family, Lenora plans to end her own life by hanging herself. After the unfortunate event, the authorities examine Lenora and find out she is carrying a child. The authorities inform Arvin, and Arvin believes that the pastor is the father. Arvin begins following the pastor, and he discovers that the pastor is seducing another young lady. Arvin follows the pastor to the woods and sees him having sex with the horny young lady. Fantastic, but too fast. Arvin then follows the pastor to his house, and he sees the young lady giving fellatio to the pastor. After his discoveries, Arvin confronts the pastor. Arvin confesses the pastor's own sins to him. The pastor realizes that Arvin was spying on him and his hormone activity, so he tries to explain himself. But eventually, Arvin kills the pastor and he runs away. This is the climax of the movie. I have the urge to punch the pastor myself and get a huge relief from seeing Arvin kill him because he really deserved it much, for he even dares to play such a nasty hormone game in the open wild. Then the film abruptly transitions into a lighter theme with jolly music. The sheriff goes to the people that he is doing shady business with. He wraps his gun with a thick cloth as a silencer and proceeds to kill the henchman. The sheriff then goes upstairs and kills the boss. This action frees the sheriff from scandals he might encounter when he runs for his election. His only problem now is his naughty sister. The sheriff's sister and her photographer husband are picking up strangers again. This time the couple picks up Arvin, tying their stories together. The couple interviews Arvin and asks him where he is headed. Arvin feels something wrong with the situation and he seems uneasy. Arvin sees the gun from the photographer's back, and he prepares for the bad things that are about to happen. Arvin grabs his own gun, and when the photographer is about to threaten him, Arvin quickly responds with gunshots, which kills the photographer. Sandy is in shock with Arvin's action, but she also has a gun with her. Sandy shoots Arvin, but unfortunately, it's revealed that earlier Carl unloaded Sandy's gun. Arvin shoots Sandy and kills her. After killing the couple, Arvin gathers the couple's items that may be useful to him. After the incident, the sheriff gets notified of the tragedy. Eventually, the sheriff begins his investigation and he finds his sister's naked photographs with different men. He burns these photographs to get rid of the pieces of evidence that his sister is a whore. Arvin visits his childhood home in Ohio. The man by the station recognizes Arvin, and he tells Arvin that his childhood home burned down ages ago. Arvin thanks the man for helping him the night his father died. They reminisce about the terrible incident, and I think this is Arvin's way of healing his wounds from the past. The man reports to Arvin that the sheriff who helps him happens to have a sister who recently died. Arvin realizes that the sheriff's tragedy is his own doing, and he immediately leaves. The man notifies the other authorities of Arvin's arrival at Ohio, and this news got to the sheriff looking for Arvin. The sheriff remembers the night that he helped little Arvin as he was looking for his sister's killer. Arvin then proceeds to look for the same spot that he and his father used to pray. He finds makeshift crucifixes that lead to the spot where his father died. Arvin digs for the remains of his old dog, and he gives it a proper burial that he promised when he was a child. Arvin hears a rustling in the leaves, and he hides in fear. The sheriff announces his presence and looks for Arvin in the woods. Arvin prepares his gun as the sheriff comes near him. Arvin commands the sheriff to give up his weapon, and says that he is also armed. The sheriff tells Arvin that he is wanted for the consecutive murders of the preacher, the sheriff's sister, and the photographer. Arvin confesses that all of the people that he killed deserve it, and he tells the sheriff that he has a photograph of the sheriff's sister naked beside a dead man. The sheriff finds Arvin, and Arvin immediately shoots the sheriff. The bullet goes to the sheriff's torso, and the sheriff immediately loses his balance. Arvin disarms the sheriff of his weapon and shows him the photograph of his sister. The sheriff dies, and Arvin leaves his body in the woods. Arvin hitchhikes, and a hippie picks him up. Arvin's mind wanders off, and he begins thinking about his life before all of the unfortunate events. He begins wondering about enlisting himself to become a soldier, and he is not certain where life will take him. He falls asleep with the thought of gratification that somebody is giving him a ride somewhere. The movie ends with somber music that wants the audience to feel comfortable despite all of the gruesome scenes and series of unfortunate events that happen to the main character. Maybe that is what life is all about, that moment of gratification where you relax, even when life takes you to places that feel like hell. It is at that moment when you feel secure in the most bizarre places. In this case, Arvin's ride to nowhere in the vehicle of a stranger. We must find those places in this terrifying world which highlight the comfort that we should be thankful for. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your fun for today.